Hello, my friend Wendell, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I want to welcome you to the podcast, You Love You. Hashtag everything self love. Today, I have an exciting guest that's going to discuss his experience with self love, the 12 steps, and all the things that entails. With over 24 years of sobriety, I asked him to come on and share with us his experience, strength, and hope. So sit back, enjoy, leave a comment, look around the site. That's youloveyoullc.com. Today's podcast, number 6, is based on everything self love. Stu in from San Diego, California. Thank you. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the podcast, You Love You, where hashtag everything self love is basically the topic. And I've had a chance to invite my good friend Stu in from California. And, it's always a pleasure to meet individuals. I think we met online as such as we're doing now. And I asked him to come out and just share some of his experience, strength, and hope with us about self love, everything self love, and recovery, and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'd like to introduce to some and present to others. I guess same thing. But Stu, in if you could come in and just share a little bit about your occupation and just a few tidbits about where you're coming from and what's going on.
Yeah, you got it, man. And thank you for this opportunity. If we can together just touch one person to help somebody else, like somebody helped me and probably you. I met Wendell online and I call him a brother now. We're like-minded people and I know I could reach out to him even though we're a few thousand miles away and he'll pick up the phone and I do the same for him. So my name's Stuart, Stuart N from San Diego. I got a sobriety date of 12/11/1999. Grew up in the LA area, moved to college here in San Diego, went to San Diego State University, graduated with my bachelor's degree in occupational safety and health, and then wasn't ready to grow up. So I took about 14, 15 years off and made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of stupid things and finally went back and got my master's. Professionally, currently I'm the safety director of a $400 million hospital project in San Diego. I've been a federal inspector with Army Corps of Engineers, NAVFAC, and done other related safety activities, and started my career actually as a claims adjuster for a workers' compensation insurance company and handled workers' compensation claims. And what got me into safety is not only the degree, but I wanted to help educate and partner with those out in the field to help them understand the risks and exposures to hopefully save some lives, because I got tired of handling the after effect as a claims adjuster. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I have 3 daughters. I've been in the martial arts all my life, competed all my life. I still teach twice a week. I was really crappy in football, baseball, basketball, and you name any other sport. So my parents got me into the martial arts young because that was something that I could do and I could be selfish about it, which you'll hear why that was important at the time. But that's it,
Martial
Wendell.
arts. Wow, that is awesome. I bet that puts some some training, some discipline in our lives. That I know. For me, I took a little bit of martial arts when I was younger. I remember trying to punch my older brother, and he hit me between my eyes and knocked me out, and he got really beat up. So, but anyway,
Well, we'll talk a
that'll
little,
work.
Wendell, how that actually kind of went against me as it related to self-love, and I'll explain that later. How the martial arts and competing and fighting really wasn't beneficial to self-love, and how that led to some extracurricular activities like drinking and using that didn't contribute to self-love either. But I'll get into that as we start chatting more.
Again, I appreciate you coming out, and I have developed a couple of questions, like to just get us to break the ice and to talk about self love. For me, a little bit about myself. I came in and was journaling. I had some time and ended up relapsing and got beat into a sense of reasonableness and done the 12 steps over again and all of that. But during journaling, There was a time when I was writing something down and my YOU looked like a Y with a heart and a U in
Mm.
it. And I think a rock or spirituality or something hit me over the head and said, "You love you." So I developed that. And now I realize that my main purpose is to help another individual find love, for the longest I didn't love myself. And I knew I was check
Yeah.
marking and check boxing. I appreciate you sharing with me. I will dive right into some of the questions that I have here. The first one was, what has been the most important aspect of your self-love journey in maintaining 24 years, 22 years of sobriety?
Yeah, 24. It'll be coming on 25 soon.
Awesome. That's good. That's awesome.
Just one
So
day at
what
a
has
time.
been most important aspect? Yes, sir.
Well, these were tough questions, and so I meditated on each one of them. And if I'm glancing down, it's because I put some bullet points so I could talk about them and not ramble on. Number one, the most important aspect of my self journey in really maintaining it wasn't just a one-time thing. It's a continued process. Even 24 years sober, it's still a continued process that I care about myself enough and like and respect myself enough to want to stay sober. Not that I have to, that I want to stay sober. And that I really have embraced the carpe diem kind of philosophy of seize the moment. I really appreciate each moment, and each day is a gift. I know we say that, and it's just words sometimes, but if we can, I've tried to embrace it. And we'll get into some more of the tough questions that lead to why I didn't have self love for so long and what happened in my life that made me hate myself so much that I would want to numb everything in my life. But what I do now to maintain it is really care for me enough that my sponsor had me do something that was so goofy when I first started, and therapists have. And I recommend it to anybody. It sounds goofy, but believe it or not, it works. I couldn't look in the mirror and say, "I love you, Stuart." I couldn't do it. I put my head down like that and said it. But after a while, I looked in the mirror and said, I like you. I love you, Stuart. You're a good guy. You're a good person. But that wasn't easy. So it took practice and it took some frustration and pain. But I'm going to tell you later about some of the tools that I use to deal with and mitigate that pain and frustration and what I did to deal with it.
Wow, that's awesome. I was with some friends at a meeting or a mastermind type group, and I heard him sharing with another lady. She was embarrassed or couldn't make videos, and he was an IT guy, trying to help people get through some of the business aspect of another business that I was in. And I heard him tell her to go to the mirror every morning and to look herself in the eyes in the mirror and say, "I love you. I love you." And I picked up that practice and I started saying, "I love you. I'm loving. I'm lovable. I'm loved." And as you said, it was difficult to look at myself for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I appreciate that. Next question is, how has your recovery journey influenced your understanding and practice of self love?
That was tough. First, forgiving myself of something that I was born with, that this isn't something I asked for. It's something I'm not being punished with because I was a bad person. Really, that was the first step, is to accept the fact that no different from I'm allergic to shrimp, I'm allergic to shellfish or peanuts. It's not something I did. I'm not being punished. I'm just allergic to it. I have an abnormal reaction when I eat shellfish or peanuts. Okay, it is what it is. I have an abnormal reaction when I drink alcohol or do other things. Other people can, and they can have one or two. For me, it's not the drinking that caused the problem. It was once I started, I just couldn't stop. So my recovery journey of you know practicing self-love, it was really influenced by forgiving myself. It's so easy for me to forgive Wendell. It's so easy for me to hear Wendell say, "Stuart, I love you." But can I look in the mirror and say I love myself? Because I'm who I'm with, like all the time, right? Um,
Yeah.
so others can say, I forgive you, I forgive you. And that really didn't mean much or do anything for my self love. It might have done something for their love of me, but it did nothing for self love. And I had to forgive myself of things I said, things I did, jobs I lost, whatever the case was, until I came into recovery and learned that it's nothing that I did wrong. It's not I'm a bad person. I'm not being punished. It was just something that I was born with, this thing called addiction or alcoholism. And that really started that recovery journey influenced my understanding and my progression to say, I love you, Stu. You're a good guy. You treat people well. You're not perfect, that's for sure. But that had a lot to do with it. It really was a pivotal moment in my life, forgiving myself.
Wow, absolutely. And it's some people in our group and in other areas that will argue if I was either born with this disease or whatever. But however it is, as you stated so eloquently, that if I'm allergic to shrimp, I'm not going to continue to eat shrimp if I continue to drink. And a lot of guys usually say once a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber. So I like that analogy that you gave us, that you was born with it and you didn't want it. And now we're dealing with it. And you're doing a fine job. From what I can tell, you're always a positive influence in my life and continue to reach for, one day at a
Pre-
time, as you say all the time.
Appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
All right. What strategies or tools have you found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober?
Well, these are tools that really anybody can use, but for people like me, my mind works differently. I perceive life's frustrations and problems differently. I respond differently to it. So, I know you believe in this, and so I'm not preaching to the choir here, but I pick up the phone, brother. Calling someone else has really been extremely effective in navigating life's challenges, whether it was going through a divorce, losing my dad, then 2 years after that, my mom, getting in a car wreck. Now, this is sober, by the way. This is not
Wow.
drunk. Yeah, this is all sober. Um, having a different occupation, and I can go on and on. Having one of my daughters pregnant and then lose their baby. These are all life's challenges, but it's just life. People call it life getting lifey, which is kind of goofy, but I understand it. Um, and the other tool that really helped me, one of the most effective tools, and again, I'm preaching to the choir because I hear you talk about it all the time, is 100% journaling. I probably have, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, I have no idea anymore. They're in a box, journals that I've filled up. And sometimes they're just absolute random thoughts. In fact, hold on a second. There you go. There's my
Right.
current one right here. Because there's something magical, mystical, holistic, I don't know what to call it, when this thing is going and this energy transfers from my brain all the way through my shoulder to my forearm, out my finger into this pen, and then it's on paper. Somehow it's gone.
Yes.
And I can reflect on it. I can properly meditate on it and think about it. Um, at a later date or that day or whenever the case may be. But those two things have, without a doubt, helped me the most with any of life challenges. And because of that, I got to stay sober. And if there was a struggle with me staying sober, where I just went, man, I would just love to make whatever I'm feeling right now go away, knowing that it's just going to go away temporarily anyways, and the problem will still be there, the frustration will still be there, and my car will still be wrecked. um, Instead, I just picked up the phone and, hey, well, I've called you before, brother. I've called you from work. Hey, man, you got 5 minutes? Just, I got to get another man's point of view on something. Let me just run it by you. You set me straight, or we just talk. So picking up the phone and journaling, and then the last, um, and it's those two processes first. Then I pray to whatever higher power one has, or just meditate and sit on it. but I need to journal it first, get it out, and then I sit with it. And those three tools have helped me hundreds of times with life's challenges.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, my sponsor. Actually, a little bit about me. I took a test probably back in '96, and I had an instructor that was a retired Air Force pilot, and he used to call me Oliver. And he'd say, "Oliver, all you got to do is know the square root of three, and if you just write it down, there's a little nerve that helps you remember stuff from your fingertips to your brain, and it'll help you remember." And then fast forward to my current sponsor, and he says, if you write it down, Wendell, everything that's running around in my brain right now is fiction. I can adjust it, move it, make it, blow it out of context, or I can make it whatever it is. But the minute I write it down, it becomes facts. And those facts I can look at, I can discuss them and realize that this is just life, as you said, life and is life. And it works. There is a nerve and I love it. And if I could reach over here, I'll reach over there and get my journal. I'm working on the third one now. And it's just it's therapeutic to write it down. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, it is. And I have the opportunity to, with other platforms and forums, which maybe I'm more reserved. I can cuss, I can yell, I can say anything I feel like. I can call somebody names, I can apologize, I can do whatever I want. It's my journal, and that is it is truly therapeutic.
Yes, it is. Man, that is amazing. I'm gonna reach over here. So journaling and all of that. As you can see, I have. I like to write little notes so I can take them with me and keep them. That was just part of the recovery portion, and then I have another one where, of course, it's full, and I'm working on another one. So I get up in the morning and do it. I have a routine every morning where I wake up, pray and meditate, journal for about 15, 20 minutes, and then jump on the 6 a.m. meeting. So I appreciate that. Okay,
Hey,
I
Wendell,
lost
can
you.
I add one thing? One of the many strategies and tools that I've found effective, not only to promote and sustain self-love, helping me love myself, but keep my sobriety. And I'm going to quote a buddy of mine, and he said something so simple, but it was so powerful. I've known it for a long time, but he said it in a better way, I think. He said, "Help a mofo." And when you when you help a mofo, help another person, whatever I was going through, whatever life's challenges, they're just there, and they didn't go away. The challenges are still there, but they're in perspective. And I help another mofo sometimes by just picking up the phone and going, "Hey, Bob, just called to say hello. How you doing?" Now, I didn't know Bob was going through a horrible time and he needed somebody to talk to. So helping somebody else is a great strategy to help love myself more, because I'm giving something instead of just as a self-centered, selfish piece of crud person that I used to think I was, and everything's about me and how I benefit. Helping somebody else with no anticipation of any return or thank you or anything. I'm just helping to help, and helping another mofo is vital.
I'm laughing. I thank you for bringing in my other business, my side hustle. I believe I'm going to make that my brand. Actually, I really like it, and it has taken off into meetings and things of that nature. And so I actually just left a brick and mortar not too long ago, and it was on the 12th step. And having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics who still suffer and practice these principles in all our affairs. And that same subject came up. I have to be freely give what was so freely given to me. And so that phrase my sponsor used to say at the end of the day or whatever, he say, "Man, go help a mofo." And so I appreciate you bringing that in. And more to come about that. I'll probably put a link or something in the description here so we can talk about that. But again, I hope as I've explained several times, that it's a way to help. I'm not trying to get rich on it. And you even volunteered to help, get some of
Yeah,
the articles if
yeah.
necessary. So I appreciate that. I don't want to put you on the spot on but I'll be coming for you. soon as I find out how to do it better, trying to do the websites and stay sober and go to work and maintain the self love. And I really believe that staying sober one day at a time has increased my self love because my friends used to say, "Man, you're a hell of a guy." Da, 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 da. And I'd say, "Man, I'd really like to meet that guy that y'all say I am." And,
Yeah,
through prayer,
yeah.
meditation, working the steps, going to meetings, I finally got a chance to meet me, man. I think I am an okay guy today. Shoot, I'm not crazy as I used to be. Oh,
Well,
Lord.
your phrase "help another mofo," it really mirrors something in a 12-step program that we say, I get to keep what I have only by giving it away. Only.
Yes,
Why? Because giving something away takes away my selfishness and it makes me feel good about me, which helps love me. It's vital, giving it away for
absolutely.
self-love.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna try to move on here, not
All right,
rushing,
all
but
right.
we got all tonight, and I'm enjoying this candor that we have, even during the breakout rooms and things of that nature. So it's absolutely great. I love it. Can you discuss any challenges you faced on your recovery journey?
I can. I'm not
And,
sure
and
which
you
question.
actually told us some, and I appreciate that. And I send my condolences to your losses during recovery and during anybody's losses during this situation. Go ahead. I'm
What
sorry.
I'm just curious, what number was that since I have it organized? I'm
That was number 6.
Oh, I thought that was
Yep.
in what ways has your childhood trauma played a role in your recovery and self-love?
Okay. Well, I might have sent you the wrong. I might have the wrong questions, but by all means, go right ahead.
Is that okay if I answer that one?
It is. It is.
Okay. My first response to that, and the question was, in what ways has your childhood trauma played a role in my recovery and self-love? Unfortunately, it had everything to do with it. It's a loaded question. Um, I was beaten as a kid regularly. I had to lie regularly that the welts on my body were because of the martial arts, because I didn't want to admit the truth. And, I see a therapist still about this. There's this little kid in me that is still sad, and I just turned 60. Um, because what does that do, lying about who you are? I don't accept who I am. And if I don't accept who I am, I don't like me. I'm, beat, and my dad wasn't an alcoholic. He was an arrogant SOB, rest his soul, who was a perfectionist, was in the military, got his MBA from UCLA. And if you're not perfect, you're a piece of crap. So anything and everything I was beaten, and having to lie about the welts on your body over and over, you learn that you're not good enough, that who you are, what your life is, isn't good enough. And then I wrote another note. He always said the word should. You should have studied more. You
Mm.
should have got an A. If I got a B plus, he said, well, then you're a loser. That means you didn't study hard enough. And it's a word that I try as hard as I can not to use, because what I had subconsciously lived with is I should have made my bed. I should have done this. In track and field, I should have ran faster. In martial arts, I should have punched harder. And it didn't become an action. It's so who I am, what I do isn't enough because I
Wow.
should have done so. And I can't change what I did. Call it, I should have mowed the lawn differently. So you're saying how I did it wasn't good enough. But it wasn't just that. After, 20, 30 years of it, you end up going, I'm not good enough.
Right.
And that defeats and crushes self-love. Um, and I don't ever remember, other than when I graduated college, my dad ever saying, I'm proud of you. And, kind of that's what a little boy, wants. Um, and so that was tough. My childhood trauma played a big role, first in addiction, because I just wanted all of that to go away. I wanted whatever pain I had, not knowing that once I started to make it go away, I'd continue to drink. Now that's alcoholism or addiction. even if the trauma ended, I'm going to keep drinking because I'm an alcoholic. Even if the pain and numbness was gone, I kept drinking just because I was an alcoholic. But that pretty much started it. Just hating who I was because of how I was treated, that I didn't think I was worthy, not good enough. And, that led me, it took a long time, but led me to recovery to begin that journey of, you know what, that wasn't you, Stuart. That had
Wow.
nothing to do with you. That had to do with the way your father treated you and what you did do, how you mowed the lawn, how you worked in school, how you performed in sports or treated people. It was good enough. And if I could get better at something, I believe in continued improvement. Um, and that's important. But that started my self-love, is hearing that the way I am, it's good enough. Don't change anything. Yeah, I got better at mowing the lawn because maybe I missed a spot, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I personally was a bad person or wasn't worthy. So that was
Wow.
a tough emotional question.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing with us. And yes, I think I shared a little bit of my story, or you've heard a little bit about my story. And I try to always qualify that although I was inappropriately touched at a young age, and that trauma that I saw it and I tried to nurture it, I tried to keep it to myself. I tried everything I could, and then I learned coping mechanisms to either hide it or to re-experience that same feeling, and all the way up until just last year sometime. And so identifying that and journaling and everything of that nature, I found ways to cope with it now without the drugs and alcohol. And I know, and I often say that the drug that that trauma didn't make me an alcoholic, but it taught me coping skills that continued and fed into my alcoholism. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Absolutely.
100%, brother. 100%.
All right. How do you prioritize self care and self love in your daily life as someone in long term recovery?
This might sound corny, but I do this again, just one day at a time. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, because still today, after 24 years, it's too much of an overwhelming thought to think that I have to have self-love and recovery the rest of my life. But
Yes.
can I do a few things just today? Yeah, I can. So first is, do I love myself enough to not poison my body? Do I love myself enough to not hurt my liver? Do I care about others enough not to drink and then get in the car, which puts them at harm and risk? Um, do I care about people in life enough? If you don't, then there's some more work somebody has to do, whoever that is. Um, but nothing. And it took my wife a long time to realize that there is a benefit to this, that nothing in this life is more important to me, period, end of story, than taking care of first my sobriety, emotionally, spiritually, physically, whether that's eating right nutritionally, working out a little bit, and to be happy with me. Because if I am taking care of myself from a sober standpoint, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and I like me, guess what? I'm probably going to treat my wife better, my kids better, my neighbors better. I will be a better employee. I'll be a better friend. Because going back a little, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this because in recovery and working the 4 step and seeing a therapist, I learned some things that were pretty embarrassing. I was very good in the martial arts. I wasn't very good in the forms aspect of it, but I was really good at fighting. I really enjoyed hurting people.
Mm.
But you know what I found? You know who I was really hurting? I wanted to punish myself and my father. And so by hitting, kicking, doing whatever to other people, which, yeah, there's some trophies and successes in that, but that at the time I didn't know. Really, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody other than me. I hated myself so much by taking that anger and pain out on somebody else, it made it a little less for me. And then imagining that that person was my father. Um, and I learned in recovery um, that by putting myself first, that is the first step in self-love. Do you love yourself enough, Stuart, to take care of you? Because it's great to say, well, now I take care of my neighbors, my community, my work, my friends, my kids, my wife. I take care of Wendell, other people in the program. Yeah, stop, Stuart, stop. Because my sponsor told me, talk to yourself. Don't talk to me. Don't say you. Talk to me. Stuart, can you take care of yourself first? Wow, hold on a second. That was a big epiphany. Do you love yourself enough even to put yourself first? And I don't mean, Wendell, from a selfish, self-centered standpoint, like drinking or using, that I'll step on everybody and lie to everybody to be selfish and feed whatever addiction there was. I mean, do I love myself enough to, even on a cruise, which, I just went on a cruise with my wife a few months ago, to go to a meeting every day, to get a Wi-Fi package and go to a meeting. I have to do that for me, because if I could do that for me, it's saying I love myself enough, and then I could be there for you. I could be there for people, but I got to love me. So that's my answer, how I prioritize self-love, self-care in my daily life as somebody in recovery.
Wow, that's amazing. I appreciate it. I was getting ready to share some kind of epiphany or anything, but that's fantastic. And yes, oh, page 62 of the big book. They call me a big book thumper sometimes in the room, and I tell them all the time, big book didn't keep me out of the bars and the porta johns that I've been stuck in some of my time through my addiction. So it's
Right.
good to know, but the book talks about knowledge and all of that stuff. It can't do anything. And several other podcasts I've had family members on to discuss, the family members' perspective of how my drinking and drugging affected them. And so a lot of people say, well, you're selfish, you're doing all of these things. And when I come into recovery, then I got to put myself again. So the comparison between selfishness while drinking and drugging, I was never there for them, spiritually, physically, and mentally. You could call me and I wouldn't show up. But
Right,
now that
right.
I'm taking care of myself, as you said, now I can show up for the other person. But it has to start with me and the self love of myself. So I appreciate that. Okay. Let's see. How do you prioritize self care? I think we just asked that one. From that, how do you prioritize self care and self love in your daily life as someone in long term recovery? You just answered that by getting the software package, the internet package, and making sure that you do your daily routines. What advice would you give to others who are struggling with maintaining their sobriety while also practicing self love?
Wow, you definitely asked some moving, thought-provoking, and not just thought, heart-moving questions. Um, you know, a lot of people struggle and maintain their sobriety, and it is one and the same. And I hope everybody that hears that maintaining your sobriety is part of self-love. They go hand in hand. They don't separate. I hear people, and we could say, well, they stop going to meetings, stop working the steps, stop helping other people, stop reading the big book, stop doing all those things. I was just in a meeting the other day, 8.5 years sober. Person stopped doing all those things, which really wasn't the issue, ended up having a drink, and it took them 2 years to get back. And I hear these stories over and over and over and over again. What it comes down to, though, to me, is that person stopped loving themselves enough to care about their own sobriety. So those that struggle in maintaining their sobriety, there is some aspect of, I don't love myself enough anymore, or today, or in this moment, to care enough about myself to care about sobriety. And then I'd end up picking up. And the other thing is to just the acceptance. Now, this is not easy. I'm talking right now, but I'm not trying to say, oh, I did this in a day. And it wasn't easy. And I cried a lot. Um, seeing a high level black belt fully tattooed bawl his eyes out. I had one friend of mine in the program said, when you cry, Stuart, and you're hurt, You cry like an African-American woman at a Southern Baptist funeral. And it's true. I had to have acceptance that I was a gift in this world and that I was created to love myself and love and help others. I do that at work every day, by helping somebody, by being kind. I might just say good morning to somebody. There are so many little things, but the acceptance is that I was brought into this world and I'm a gift to the world. Now, I don't say that in a conceited way. I don't try to boast myself up, that everyone, Wendell is here for a reason. Wendell, you are sober for a reason and you're a gift to so many people. And sometimes it's hard for us to love ourselves enough to hear that. You know, I remember early in recovery when somebody said something complimentary to me. They said, you know, Stuart, you could say thank you. And that was tough, you know, when they said, hey, I really love you, or you're a good guy, and thanks for being there, brother. And then I wouldn't say anything. I go, yeah, whatever. You could say thank you, because I couldn't see myself as that person, but I was that person. And you know, it goes back to the tools. If somebody is struggling in maintaining their sobriety, I would ask them, one, do you love yourself enough to stay sober? To make that, there's nothing more important than caring for yourself. So if you care for yourself enough, like, and I just had to do it today, not yesterday. I don't know about tomorrow. Do I care about myself today enough to go to a meeting this morning, to journal this morning, to help somebody else, to pick up the phone? And I don't do that, you know, expecting anything. I love me enough to do that. So, you know, if I don't use my tools that I've learned, I will struggle in sobriety. I will struggle with self-love. And I know the opposite effects of that. If there are a couple days that I haven't done what I'm supposed to do, which is rare, but it does happen. My wife says, hey, quick question. When was the last time you went to a meeting? So, you know, we laugh at that, right? But let's peel the onion. What's behind that? You know, when was the last time you journaled, Stuart? When was the last time you did this? Because I'm starting to act in a way that I'm not treating myself well enough, which then means I'm not treating her or other people with the loving kindness. But when I go to a meeting and journal and pray and do those things, and especially help another mofo, I'm this wonderful guy. She goes, you must have gone to a meeting today, because I put me first. I loved me enough. And that's why I don't think about what I'm going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll wake up and go, wow, okay, I'm alive. I have an opportunity here to stay sober today. And then I'm going to have to do a few things to stay sober. And those days just start adding up after a while.
Wow, man, that's for sure. That's fantastic, because I was one of those that had early sobriety, had 15 years, 359 days, and saw the fun, what I assumed the fun that everybody else was having. And I decided to pick up a drink. And I was that individual that took me till February 14th of 2023 to get back in here and to get a real foundation and realize that I have to do this on a daily basis. You know, like you said, looking a year, 24 years down the road is not where it's at. I have to maintain, and the book talks about us having a daily
Yep.
retreat based on our spiritual fitness, you know. And I always talk about, when we talk about spirituality, I went back to the religiosity or the religion that I was brought up with. You said spirituality, I said God, and go back to church. And that never really worked as well as having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I carried this message and I started loving myself and started doing the things that I do now on a daily basis. So I appreciate that. Wow.
Well, you know, Wendell, if I could just add one thing to that. You know, I sponsor a couple of different atheists. And so the God thing is bothersome to them. And I regularly share with them it's a power greater than yourself. That's it. So can you stay sober alone is the question. Can you love yourself alone by yourself? Now, we've worked this first step, and you've pretty much proven that that can't happen, that you cannot do this by yourself. So you need a power greater than you, whatever that is. It is what it is. It'll grow. It'll change. I know that for a fact. But it's important. And, you said something so vital. And when I work with guys, they call me the wordsmith of the big book, because I think words mean a lot. They're vital. And
Yes.
it didn't say a weekly or a yearly or a lifetime reprieve, a daily reprieve. Just today is all I get, a daily reprieve contingent upon my spiritual condition. So that means if I don't love myself enough to connect to my higher power, I guess I don't get a daily reprieve today. And I'll probably be extra frustrated, extra nasty. I'll act like a DIC, you know what? Because the big book says you're only going to get a daily reprieve. And,
Yes.
I've shared this before with you and in meetings that, recovery, and I mean, self-love, really loving me, and recovery is not like my gym membership. I don't get to pay for the year, and now I get to go to the gym for an entire year and not even have to think about it until the next year when I renew it. No, it's a daily thing that I have to do to renew my membership every single day. And that's not overwhelming. To me, that's a blessing. Wow, all I have to think about is today? Sweet. I could do that.
Yeah,
I could love me for
absolutely.
one day.
As the book says, half measures availed us nothing.
Nothing. And
Nothing. It didn't get us 50%. Go ahead.
there are 253 absolutes in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Another one that I know but I love is holding on to old ideas gets me what? A little bit? No. Gets me a lot? No.
No,
Holding on to old
nothing.
ideas gets me nil. Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing at all. And so those absolutes I think are important. So whatever old idea I had about me, I can't hold on to them. I don't. So I'm sorry to kind of go off on a tangent.
no, I love it. I love it. Because you said there's 1,007. What is that? Something. Words we or love or something in the big book.
What 1,157 times the big book uses the word we. So I
Wow.
can't do this alone. It's a we program. I need Wendell in my life. I need brothers and sisters in my life to help me stay sober, to teach me, work with me. And my sponsor said, the moment your ego gets so high that you think you're something and know everything because of your years of sobriety, you're going to drink. So I learn a lot, honestly, I go to a newcomer meeting. I go to a couple lockdown facilities where they don't really fathom even, I don't know how to stay sober a day or 2 days or 3 days. I learned a lot from them.
Right.
So yeah, keeping it, humble.
Absolutely. I just love it. Oh man, I have so many things that we just both quote the book and know the book and been through the book, and it amazes me all of the. So for those that are watching that might not know what the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is, or a meeting or a sponsor, I'll put some links down into the description of this video. The sponsor is one that has worked the 12 steps and guides you through the steps. He's not a banker. He's not a anyway, I'll put the information down there and some other things in there. But if you're new or watching this for the first time and wonder what two guys are talking about, we're talking about the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, a way to stay sober one day at a time. And it takes 1,007. Oh man, it just blows my mind every
A
time you
lot.
share that. That help a mofo. That's where that comes from. We have to help each other. We have to
That's
reach out
right.
to each other.
That's
I
right.
appreciate that. Wow. Okay. How has the concept of forgiveness, both of oneself and others, been instrumental in your journey of self love and recovery? That's deep.
So, when I wrote down answers, it's really journaling that I'm doing. I don't think about it a lot. I just put down my first thoughts. So here, I want you to know what I said. I said, you hit it on the nose, brother. Thank you. That's it, brother, right there. Forgiveness of myself first and foremost for the disease, which is not my fault. I might have done and said things that I have now made amends for and made them right. But it's nothing that I did wrong. And, childhood trauma really does affect, whether you're an alcoholic or not, or an addict or not, childhood trauma affects self-love. And to forgive myself that I'm not a bad person. I wasn't beaten because I'm bad. I was beaten because my dad was a jerk. Or in my um, talking with my dad after making some amends, and then talking with my grandfather and great grandfather, I learned a bit about how they were brought up. And so when I became a father, and it's still to this day, I vowed never to strike my child, ever, out of anger. And I'm not saying to any audience member that it's wrong or not wrong. I'm just saying childhood trauma of whatever kind affects how we think about ourselves and how we love ourselves. So first, it was just forgiving myself because I blamed me for everything. I was the problem, not just things I did. I was born a problem. Mentally, spiritually, internally, my heart. And then once I forgave myself of that, I was able to, as your question says, the concept of forgiveness, first of oneself and others. First, it had to be me, because I'm sure not going to forgive you if I don't forgive me first, because I don't care. But once I started forgiving me and realizing I'm not perfect, I could easily forgive others because they are just as imperfect, as I was. And that was really instrumental in my journey, not only of recovery, but self-love. I thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. I said, I've been angry and hateful since September 1st, 1993 or 1963, which is when I was born. And it wasn't that. It was the childhood trauma that I lived with for years that developed into low self-esteem, insecurity. And the way I dealt with low insecurity and self-esteem was by being in the martial arts and beating up other people because I hated myself. And somehow, some horribly unusual way that made me feel better about me. But when I forgave myself and started to love me for who I was, and that I'm here for a reason to help other people, I could forgive others. And honestly, I became less angry, and I was still good in the martial arts, but I didn't want to hurt people. I might have wanted to score points, but there's a big difference between scoring and performing your sport activity well versus wanting to hurt somebody because you hated yourself so much. If that made any sense.
It did. It made perfect sense to me, and I appreciate it. I do reflect back on a time that there was an issue with my youngest child, and I won't put it out there of what it was, but I remember telling her that I'm going to do what my dad would have done to me, and it still haunts me to this day. I've forgiven myself, and she's forgiven me as far as I know. But yeah, punishment was severe, just like my dad put it on me. So I suffer from 100 forms of fear, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I remember specifically saying, "I'm going to do exactly what my dad would have done to me," and that wasn't right. And so I continue during the ninth step. I asked, I didn't bring that particular subject up, and I don't know that she realizes how it affects me today. I know how it probably affected her, but today I ask, if there's anything I can do to make things right. I don't try to specify what I did or this or that. But in the ninth step, we make direct amends to those such people who have harmed and things of that nature. So today, my living sobriety and my constant communications with her, and constantly telling her that I love her, and all the rest of my daughters have improved, and I've forgiven myself for that. So I appreciate that. But yeah.
Well, and that's beautiful, Wendell. That is to me the best amends really possible, because we've said a lot of things. I have said a lot of things in my past I don't say I'm sorry, first of all, because I said I'm sorry thousands of times and did whatever I did again and again and again. Um, I truly make amends, and the best amends, that maybe they don't forget, but they most definitely forgive, is that I'm not the same person, and I don't have to tell them I'm not the same person. They see it.
Yes.
I don't say the same things. I don't act the same way. I'm nice and loving, and I say, I love you, sweetheart. I'm really proud of you. Um, and they see that I'm a different person. I don't have to tell them that. As if my buddy used to say, be about it, don't talk
Absolutely.
about it.
Be about it. Don't talk about it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Just number 10. Oh, I can't believe it's been great, man. I appreciate the candor and everything. What does the phrase "you love you" mean to you in the context of your sobriety and self-love journey?
Well, it kind of, if I sound like I'm repeating myself, I apologize here, but nothing, nothing is more important, um, that I have to take care of myself. So the question, what is the phrase, you love you? Wendell, if I don't love myself, how can I love you, brother? How can I be there for you? How can I be there for my kids, somebody at work, my neighbors, my friends, my wife? Because I don't care enough about me. If I don't care enough about me, then I'm not going to be the person that they will really love or want to be around, because that comes out. I've been around people that I can tell, and sometimes they do the opposite. All they do is help everybody else, constantly helping everybody else, but they don't help themselves. And that was me. I was able to help anybody and everybody, but I didn't give a crap about myself. And this was early in sobriety. This is not in drinking. So self-love, um, even when I got sober, the trauma from my childhood had to still be dealt with. That you love you means I've seen the progression. I'll go back to the mirror of I can't even look in the mirror and say I love you. So I'll do it with my head down. I couldn't do it. I just did not love myself enough. That insecurity, self-esteem, and hatred of me because of how I kind of was brought up, and that you weren't enough, you're not worthy, you know, and I just the analogy that if I got a B or a B plus, that you're a loser, you didn't try hard enough, you're a piece of crap kind of thing. And then you start believing that stuff, that little by little, and I work with guys and I just tell them, this is not going to be easy. It's going to be painful. Um, it's a good pain. Pick up the phone and call me or call somebody else when you're in pain, but it's not easy. And then over a week, a month, a couple years, few years, you get to the point where now you're looking at yourself. And sometimes, by the way, Wendell, it was quick. It was, okay, I love you. And then I'd look but now I can look straight in the mirror and go, you know what? I love you, dude. You're a good person. I really like you. Man, if I could hang out with you, I'd hang out with you, which I'm with me all the time. I can't get rid of it. But you love you. Start with getting sober.
Wow.
Because if I don't get sober, I really don't like myself very much. I'm willingly poisoning my body, hurting myself, putting others at risk, affecting everybody in my life. And that's not love. So you love you, dealing with childhood trauma or whatever trauma that one might have. When I deal with that, I begin to start loving myself. And if I love myself enough, when somebody says, I've got 2 days sober, my first thought is, wow, I guess you care about yourself enough. Little bit of love, maybe, right? Just a little bit, that you wanted to get sober because you
Yes.
care that much about you. Because if you didn't care, you'd be off doing what you were doing. But wow, okay. And then that starts to build. And then it's 4 days and a week and a month and then 300 days, 600, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And that love for yourself begins to grow. And that it's not, to me, just in the context of sobriety, they go hand in hand. Self love and sobriety are one and the same. if
right,
that makes
right.
sense.
It does. And I've had people argue the fact that no, you can't love yourself. The book talks about caring for others and everything of that nature. But I also agree with you wholeheartedly that self-love one hand on hand goes with sobriety. So I appreciate it. I did get up to show you, hopefully the camera.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
dated that. The day that I wrote it was 7/23/23, and I was journaling, and I stopped immediately and wrote that card. And just as you said, there's about there's a bunch of them, a bunch of different notes on self love, on business, my story, worked hard, got good attainment. Oh, that was I was trying to do another video. All of these are just things that I found pillars of self love. I am as God created me to be. I am eternal. I am authentic. See yourself, heart, accept yourself. And so I've made different, and I'll go through these every now and then. So that's what you love you belong means to me. It came up. It was developed back on 7/23 of 23 at 10:03 a.m. Or yeah, 10:03. It must have been a Saturday morning. There's a whole nother story that goes with it. I have an auntie that healed the finger of mine, barbed wire being young, and she said a prayer over me. But fast forward to when I met her or went back to see her that day, she says that she's looked impending death in the eye and she's ready to meet her maker. And that just blew me away. So a lot of that came through and emotional and everything of that nature. But
Yeah, yeah.
I really, really do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to share with us about self love. And although I've had some thought provoking questions and I'm enjoying this, is there any last words or anything that you would like to say that I didn't ask or didn't cover? Or
Yeah, I would just say, Wendell, you love yourself enough to do this for others. You know, it's not, I'm doing this because I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm doing this because I want notoriety, or I'm doing this because I want, 1 million likes on Facebook. Because if you didn't love yourself enough, it's a privilege to say, I know Wendell. He's a friend of mine. And that's a privilege to say that. And I think once we start loving ourselves, I know when I love myself for today and I do things for myself, and this is not being selfish, is that I attract other people. And when you love yourself, people see it and they want to be around you. And then you attract a friend, a partner, a mate, a wife, whatever the case is, or just good friends, good buddies. And that's what you do. I know you love you and you accept you. And it's a beautiful thing for anybody to be able to, at some point in their life, say, this is me. I have faults. I'm not perfect, but this is me. And every day I love me enough to do the right thing, to be sober, and to help other people. And if you don't like me, then I can't do anything about that. I'm not that powerful. As my sponsor once said, he said, wow, Stuart, this is early on in recovery. He goes, you're, number one, you're omnipotent. I can tell you're like God, and you're an amazing mind reader because you know what everybody else thinks. But that comes honestly, Wendell, from not self-love. Because I know what you're thinking right now, Wendell. You're thinking this. Well, how would I possibly know that? But if I know that this time together that I was genuine, I spoke from the heart. I love me for speaking with you, and I don't know what you think. I'm not omnipotent. I don't know a lot about anything, and that comes from self-love and sobriety. So it's really you, brother. And I love that you did this because it's something that I see in you, that you love yourself enough to then give that love to others. So thank you.
awesome, 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 awesome. Thank you so much for your time and everything. We've covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Trauma.
Yeah.
I do have a book. It's called. It can be picked up. I'll put a link in there. I have a ebook that's called Four Powerful Strategies to Heal from Trauma. It's what I did to begin to start loving myself. There are several websites that I'm still developing, but all kind of stuff out there. You heard us mention helpamofo.com. You can pick up some gear. There's some coaching in there, and that's going to evolve as well. it's a global movement to pay it forward through deliberate acts of kindness. And I'm still developing all of those things, but it's just a pleasure to see someone that cares enough about themselves and to share their story and to share their time with us. So I appreciate everything you've done. I look forward to seeing and talking with you in other meetings as and other platforms as we go along. And at the end of the day, everything self-love. It begins with self-love. And if you don't love yourself, grab somebody, talk with them, get help, whatever you can do. Drop us a line, call me or whatever, and just love yourself.
It,
Peace.
it, as easy as that, brother. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate you.